Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to call the public hearing of City Council for Monday, August 10th, 2026 to order. Notice 1.1, Notice of Public Hearing for 1 OCP Amendment 26-01, Bylaw number 4639-2026, 2 Zoning Amendment 26-02, Bylaw number 4638-2026. To the statement of the public hearing. So this public hearing is being conveyed in accordance with Section 465 of the Local Government Act to allow the public to present their views to the council regarding the following proposed official community plan and zoning amendments. Official Community Plan Amendment 26-01, Bylaw number 4639-2026, and Zoning Amendment 26-02, Bylaw number 4638-2026. Members of the public are encouraged to participate in this hearing and are asked to observe the following procedures. The purpose of the public hearing is to provide those who believe their interests may be affected by the proposed bylaw amendments with an opportunity to express their views to council. City staff will first provide an overview of the proposed bylaw amendments and the procedural steps completed to date. Following the staff presentation, members of the public will be invited to share their comments with council. Notice of the public hearing was mailed to neighboring property owners and occupants and published on the city's website. The notice provided information about the proposed bylaw amendments and invited members of the public to submit comments by email or letter or to attend the public hearing. Everyone present who believes their interests may be affected by the proposed bylaw amendments will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard. A microphone is available at the delegation table. Members of the public wishing to speak are asked to come forward one at a time when invited. Each speaker will have up to 5 minutes to address council and should begin by clearly stating their name. Comments should be limited to matters relating to the proposed bylaw amendments. A public hearing is a formal process through which council receives information and considers the views of the public. Council members may ask questions to clarify a speaker's comments, but will not debate the matter with speakers or among themselves during the public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is for council to listen to those wishing to make representations regarding the proposed bylaw amendments. Please be advised that council must not receive any further information or submissions regarding the proposed bylaw amendments after the public hearing has concluded. Next 3, the official community plan amendment 26-01, bylaw number 4639-2026, and the zoning amendment 26-02, bylaw number 4638-2026. 3.1, update from the city team. 1 OCP amendment 26-01, bylaw number 4639-2026. Number 2 zoning amendment 26-02, bylaw number 4638-2026, and 3 previously received report number 26-133 from the city planner regarding OCP amendment 26-01, bylaw number 4639-2026, and the zoning amendment 26-02, bylaw number 4638-2026 for information. Good morning, welcome both of you. You got to turn your mic on there and then, yeah, there you go. Floor is all yours.
Good morning, Mayor, Council, and members of the public. The item before you is Official Community Plan Amendment 26-01, Bylaw number 4639-2026, and Zoning Amendment 26-02, Bylaw number 4638-2026, as outlined in Report number 26-133 from the City Planner. The purpose of this application is to amend the Official Community Plan to redesignate the subject property at 1639 99th Avenue from industrial to commercial, and to amend the zoning bylaw to rezone the property from light industrial to general commercial, to permit the continued operation of a fitness center. The proposal relates to the continued use of the existing building, and no building expansion or redevelopment of the site is proposed. Staff have reviewed the proposal and are of the opinion that the proposed amendments are appropriate. Amendments recognize the existing pattern of development in the area, provide a more appropriate transition between commercial and residential land uses, and maintain consistency between the official community plan and the zoning bylaw. With respect to the public input, one submission was received from the neighboring property owner. The submission primarily requested clarification on whether the proposed amendments would affect the zoning of the neighboring property, the rationale of the proposed redesignation and rezoning, and potential parking impacts associated with the fitness center. Staff clarified that the proposed amendments apply only to the subject property at 1639 99th Avenue and do not change the zoning or permitted use of the neighboring properties. With respect to parking, the subject property provides on-site parking for customers, and applicant will be encouraged to direct patrons to use the parking provided on the property. Staff also advised that parking on a public street is permitted where vehicles are parked legally and in accordance with the public traffic and parking regulations. A summary of the inquiry and the information provided by the staff has been included in the public hearing agenda package. Feedback received during today's public hearing will be considered prior to Council's consideration of third reading. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So 3.2, we had the written comment received, written comment received from the public was a verbal inquiry from the community member. 3.3, I'll call 3 times for the public comments. So calling once for any public comments. Calling twice for any comments. Calling 3 times for any comments. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. All right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the regular meeting of City Council for Monday, August 10th, 2026 to order. The City of Dawson Creek acknowledges that we are privileged to live and work on Treaty 8 territory and the traditional home of the Cree, Danese, Saulteaux, Sicanee, and Slavey First Nations. We value the Métis peoples that live and gather here. We commit to upholding the respectful relationships these nations have built with the land, and we acknowledge our responsibility to carry that forward today and into the future. 2 delegations, 2.1, we have Kirsten Homme, Director of Finance and Administration, and Emily Quinn, Program Director with the Dawson Creek Society for Community Living, in attendance regarding the permissive tax exemption application. So, good morning, ladies. You can either turn both mics on or turn them on, like when each one of you is speaking, but they do, and there's another one on that side too.
Perfect.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Unfortunately, our Executive Director, Marla, is away on a well-deserved vacation, so she is unable to attend. So myself and Emily are here to present this to you. My name is Kirsten Homme. I'm the Director of Finance and Administration for the Dawson Creek Society for Community Living. And this is Emily Quinn. She's a Program Director for Assisted Living and our supported homes. We'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak regarding our application for the 2027 tax exemption. Dawson Creek Society for Community Living has been serving the area and the community since 1958 and has a long history of supporting individuals with developmental disabilities and other vulnerable community members. I understand that both DCSCL and the City of Dawson Creek were incorporated in 1958, which means we've been growing alongside each other to support our community for almost 70 years. Oh. Today, we provide a wide range of residential, community inclusion, family support, aging in place, and other community-based services to help people live meaningful lives within Dawson Creek. Alongside our community living services, we also own and operate more than 130 units of social housing, provide senior services, and operate the Baltrees House. We currently receive a permissive tax exemption for our residents at 1416, and this application is requesting the same consideration for a new property that we are using to provide services to individuals we support.
Thank you, Kirsten. As Kirsten mentioned, I'm the Program Director of Assisted Living and Supported Homes with the Dawson Creek Society for Community Living. Like our residents at 1416, this property will be used exclusively to support adults with developmental disabilities. More specifically, it will allow individuals to age in place with their community, remaining close to their families, friends, support networks, and the services they rely on. These individuals are among the most vulnerable members of our community. This residence will provide them with a safe and stable, accessible home where they can continue to receive the support they need as they age. This home was made possible without government capital funding. DCSCL self-funded the construction through a generous grant from the Northern Development Initiative, combined with the Society's own saving and financial resources. We made this investment because we recognize the growing need for specialized housing that would allow people to remain in Dawson Creek as they age. As a nonprofit organization, every dollar saved through a permissive tax exemption helps us direct more resources towards the people we support and maintenance of our homes and quality of our programs. For nearly 70 years, DCSCL has been a part of the Dawson Creek community. Since 1958, we have adapted to meet the changing needs of the people we serve while remaining committed to providing safe and stable and meaningful community living opportunities. We appreciate Council's continued support of community organizations and respectfully request approval of our application for the 2027 permissive tax exemption. Thank you for your time, and we'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you, ladies. Any questions, Council? No? I don't see any questions. I don't have any either. I just wanted to thank you for coming in this morning, and I appreciate your comments about Marla having a well-deserved vacation and holidays. So, yeah, thank you very much for being here this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, we have 2.2. We have Daneka Hussey-Hughes, Executive Director with the Dawson Creek and District Chamber of Commerce, in attendance regarding permissive tax exemption application. Morning, Daneka. Do you need some water?
No, I have water. I'm just
Okay.
always sick.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's a new clicker. Is there like a spot where I can use the clicker? Oh, there we go. Okay. My name is Daneka Hussey-Hughes, and I am the Executive Director of the Dawson Creek and District Chamber of Commerce. And I am here to request a permissive tax exemption for the 2027 property taxes that we will have due on our building at 904 102 Avenue in downtown Dawson Creek. So, this exemption would support our continued service and delivery, the economic development work that we have ongoing and that we are hoping to launch in the start of 2027, and our community partnerships, for example, the community awards we're doing, the Haunted Village and other events that we have going on, as well as the Youth Entrepreneurship Program, which should be starting in January of next year. For those who aren't aware of our organization, which most of you are because you guys work with us all the time, we are the recognized voice of businesses in Dawson Creek. We work with business advocacy at all levels of government. We are community and regional partners to a myriad of groups, including nonprofits and other charities. We support economic development. We support networking and collaboration opportunities. We provide programs, events, and training for small business owners, and a lot more. Our mandate is to strengthen the local economy and create an environment where businesses can thrive. So we support the city's strategic priorities by enabling community partnerships, supporting tourism and vibrancy downtown, supporting economic development, and supporting municipal sustainability. Sorry, that's going to keep happening. The property in question is the one at 904 102nd Avenue that we took possession of 4 years ago. We currently own it and we use it. We have 9 office spaces in it, one of which we use for ourselves alongside a boardroom. It is open Monday to Wednesday from 9 to 4 p.m. and Thursday and Fridays are by appointment. And our office rentals are available to nonprofits and businesses alike, as well as a boardroom at the back of the building that is available for rental at any time, day or night, as long as it's not already rented. We feel that we qualify for this tax exemption because we are a registered nonprofit. Our activities continue to benefit the community and are growing. We are up to over 175 members, which means over 2,000 people are represented by our membership. We support nonprofits and charities through discounted or free memberships and usage of our boardroom. We provide accessible facilities and low-cost programming. We contribute to the economic development, tourism, and downtown vibrancy as much as we are able to, and we collaborate routinely with the city, regional partners, and community organizations. At this time, we are still pursuing financial sustainability, and we are projecting a very good 2027 in which our budget will balance. In 2025, our operating revenues were a little over $119,000 projected, and so far we're up to $188,000 for actual. The discrepancy is because we had a bit of damage to our building that had to be rectified. In 2026, we reduced our staffing, we reduced a lot of our bills, and we reduced a lot of non-urgent maintenance to ensure that we are able to continue to be sustainable while still keeping the building in order and keeping what we are doing going. The results of these changes are an anticipated expense reduction of 10% over each year for the next 3 years. So at our property taxes over the past 4 years, we've gone from 8,100 to 9,700, and I project it'll go up a little bit more in the next year based on your guys' budget. The property tax exemption would relieve a significant amount of financial pressure for our nonprofit and allow us to reinvest that money into community programming and our economic development that we are pursuing, including our workshop series for small businesses. The community impact of that would be that we would be able to continue to support the local businesses, entrepreneurs, and startups. We would be able to provide more networking, training, and professional development. We will continue to host our community building events, such as the awards, the Haunted Village, and our upcoming golf tournament. We would be able to continue promoting Dawson Creek as a place not only to work, but to invest and grow. And we'll be able to continue strengthening our partnerships with nonprofits, First Nations, and regional agencies by being able to offer supports at low costs or no costs. A strong chamber contributes directly to a strong local economy. I'm not going to go, you guys all have the presentation, so I won't go over everything because I am losing my voice. But in the past year, we have significantly changed how we are operating at the chamber to help the businesses more and keep our costs as low as possible so that we are able to help people without charging them huge membership fees. We've done things like getting rid of a lot of our telecommunications that were outdated, reducing our administration fees, reducing our hours in the office, that sort of thing. And we've strengthened our sponsorship and our grant application strategies. If we were able to get the tax exemption, it is needed because the financial pressure right now for all nonprofits, as you guys are more than aware, is staggering. And this would allow us to continue at the rate that we are currently going and have more networking events and more connection events for our community, especially the small businesses that are all struggling. This would help ensure long-term sustainability of the chamber program and its events. So at this time, our request is for the approval of the permissive tax exemption for 2027 property taxes associated with the property at 904 102nd Avenue. This will directly support our ability to serve the community. In closing, I would like to thank Council for its time and consideration in this matter. I know you guys are asked all the time for this sort of thing, so I appreciate you giving us the time. The Chamber will remain committed to strengthening the local economy, enhancing community partnerships, and all the hard work that we do, regardless of whether we get the tax exemption or not. So we appreciate your time and consideration in this matter. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Perfect. Thank you, Daneka. Any questions, Council? Councillor Earl? Today's red.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. It's a new venue. It used to be green. Green used to mean go.
I was not going to say something, but I'm like, oh, I'll let you know.
Thank you to our delegate presentation. With respect to the suites you have rented out currently, how many of them are for nonprofit? I know one is for the South Peace Crime Prevention Association. You've got a couple more. I don't need the specific names, just trying to, as we get into the conversation later, there's going to be the question of, in order to grant a permissive tax exemption to the chamber, we do have to kind of vary the policy, which requires that the principal use of the property is either for social services or recreation, cultural services, and looking to rationalize that if there's, I mean, obviously you guys mentioned you do the Haunted Village and the community awards, which I think would fall under recreation, social service, cultural service, under the broad umbrella, but just looking at, you know, if we can rationalize it as the principal use of the property is maybe being, when you break it all down. So you've got at least a couple nonprofits in there, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes. So as of right now, for nonprofits that we have in there, we have South Peace Crime Prevention Society. We have ourselves, of course. We are a nonprofit. We have Arts Northeast, and Peace Liard Regional Arts Council also uses that office as kind of a joint one. Fort St. John Association of Community Living has an office that they use for therapies as well. And then, of course, our boardroom gets an average of 6 uses per month by nonprofits for their meetings, like the Hospital Foundation uses it, and the Kodiaks use it for their meetings and whatnot as well. So there's a lot of groups that use it, actually.
So, yeah, no, that was my question. Thank you for the context.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Any other questions? Councillor Apollonio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Of course, Daneka, of course, thank you very much for coming over, and nice to see you yesterday. Yeah, I just want to acknowledge your good work because reading your statement, balance of statement, last year, of course, is 104 negative. So you're doing great for this year. So just want to commend you because at least you targeted for a lower one, which is revenue, which is at least the Chamber of Commerce is improving.
Oh, 100%. Our revenue is up and it's slowly balancing. It's just a matter of climbing the mountain.
Yeah. So I just want to note that because reading this statement is improving a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Thanks, Councillor Apollonio. Any other questions? I don't have any either. Daneka, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. All right, next, 2.3, we have Stacey Bourque, Revitalization Manager, the Aboriginal Housing Management Association, and Sheena Haaf, Executive Director at the Nawican Friendship Centre, in attendance regarding Nawican Emergency Shelter Update. So, good morning, ladies, and welcome. It's usually 10, but if you need, yeah, and then 10 for questions from council, but if you need a bit more, that's fine, so, yeah. The chairs don't eject you at the time limit, so you're safe. I just got to push the buttons on your mics to, or one, yeah. Yep, there you go.
All right. Good morning. Thank you so much. My name is Stacey Bourque. I'm with the Aboriginal Housing Management Association. Oh, it's not up there. We recently took over management of the operating agreements for Nawican Friendship Centre, specifically for the shelter. It was transitioned from BC Housing approximately 6 weeks ago. And at that time, we connected with Nawican and the city and realized that there were some challenges that were going on. And so we became involved at that time to try and support with some mitigation strategies to improve operations around the shelter, relationships with community, and work collaboratively together to really understand the issues. So that's what has brought us to Dawson Creek. We've been here since last Tuesday, so we've been here for quite a few days. I'm not unfamiliar with Dawson Creek. We did quite a bit of mitigation work with the Dawson Creek Native Housing Society over the last couple of years as well, working with them to improve operations, and so now we are working alongside Nawican. So AMA was established in 1996. And our mission is to lead and advance housing rights for Indigenous peoples in British Columbia. We have about 50 Indigenous members that we support across the province, and our members manage more than 95% of all Indigenous housing units in urban, northern, and rural areas across the province. So we're here today to respond to community complaints brought forward by the city around the shelter operations, share findings from an environmental scan that AMA began about 6 weeks ago when we learned that there were challenges happening. I thought it was important that we have, a third-party person come in and conduct that scan outside of the community. Somebody who's unfamiliar, doesn't have friends here, but also doesn't have enemies. So that was important. To identify practical actions that we can take to address those concerns, develop a collaborative pathway forward, and then confirm AMA's commitment for collaborations to the city. So the Nawican Friendship Centre has been in this community for a very long time.
Next year will be 60 years.
Excellent. 60, wow.
Their mandate is to promote understanding, inclusion, and community development for Indigenous people, deliver culturally grounded programs to improve wellness, and strengthen Indigenous culture. They provide supports for Indigenous families and individuals all throughout Dawson Creek and the South Peace region, far beyond the shelter, as you are aware. They support currently the shelter, the warming center, outreach services, housing, treatment and systems navigation supports, harm reduction and basic needs assistance, youth, elder and family supports, employment and life skills, and then cultural programming and community connections. So the community complaints in respect to the shelter program. So some of the complaints, I'm sure you're very aware, include public substance use and intoxication around the shelter, congregation in nearby public spaces, especially around the mini mall area, litter and discarded needles and sharps, noise and disruptive behavior, trespassing onto private property, negative impacts on neighboring businesses, concerns regarding community safety, and desire for improved communication and responsiveness. So in terms of these complaints, we focused our environmental scan around these issues. So AMA led the engagement, the stakeholders identified community strengths, priorities, challenges, and service gaps, synthesized partner perspectives to inform findings and recommendations, applied an Indigenous housing and wellness lens to support Nawican, and then drafted a mitigation strategy for the Nawican Friendship Center Society. So we've learned a lot about Dawson Creek over the last couple of years, but certainly more so in the last week, I would say. We spoke with the City of Dawson Creek, with the RCMP, with Northern Health Authority, South Peace Community Resources Society, Connective Support Society, Nawican Friendship Center Society, and have gone door to door to the local businesses in and around the shelter to introduce myself and learn firsthand what some of those concerns are. We just really, part of, obviously, we want to understand, but we also want to draft a mitigation strategy and plan that's going to be effective for the city and for the shelter and for the population. And the best way to do that is to build trust and improve relationships within the community, especially with the local business owners that are experiencing challenges. Explore some of those operational changes needed to enhance community safety, and then draft a framework for accountability, which will be provided to the city once it's completed. So the scan pointed to 4 priorities for strengthening trust and community confidence. The first one being strengthen the complaint management system and accountability. So having a formal process to log, track, respond to, and report on concerns. So our plan is to have a dedicated number that people can phone with an outreach worker on the other end that will be immediately responsive, whether that's somebody found a needle in a park, or there is someone in a business that is unwanted, or somebody loitering in a doorway of a business or sleeping in a doorway of a business. Maybe there's just, people that are making people uncomfortable, and, there's a collection of individuals that are standing there to go and disperse them and redirect them elsewhere or take them somewhere if that's what's needed. If someone is unwell in the community and they're behaving erratically and, the police maybe can't respond right away, but they can come and redirect, those types of things. And also to pick up garbage in and around the area and do regular sweeps to protect the community and the neighborhood. Enhance supports and pathways for those struggling with substance use and mental health. So this is something that is very important when serving this population. And over the last week, learning about the infrastructure gaps and the service gaps in Dawson Creek has been pretty significant for us. Lots of the challenges are a lack of access to service. And a lack of ability to get people the care that they need. So, for example, if you have someone who unfortunately is mentally unwell and likely meets the threshold or criteria to be formed under the Mental Health Act, you don't really have anyone that you can call that can come and make that assessment and then transition that person into that place or space. And so everyone's stretched thin in this area, it feels like, and so there's not a lot of immediate responsiveness, that we can provide in that area. Additionally, we learned that accessing opioid agonist therapy for this population is extremely difficult. It requires multiple phone calls. It's all done via telephone. If somebody misses 3 days and needs a restart on their medication, it's very hard to have that initiated. So there's actually not a single person in the shelter currently and or over the last 6 weeks that has been on opioid agonist therapy, which is very damaging for the population and creates a lot of issues because it requires that they continually access illicit narcotics in the community instead of us trying to find another pathway that's less dangerous and creates other issues. You may also be interested to know that there's not a single individual in the shelter currently that is injecting substances. The primary method of use for the population in the shelter is inhalation. And so a lot of the discarded needles in the community are coming from a population of people who are not accessing the shelter. So finding them and trying to encourage a different method of use will be important for the outreach team to reduce some of that needle debris that occurs in the community, and doing some education with them. Improvement around site management and a good neighbor policy. So instituting a good neighbor policy is always a good idea when you support a large group of people who are living with severe and persistent mental health and substance use issues, and often chronic homelessness. And so ensuring that that policy means, meeting the immediate needs of your neighbor, but also forming a monthly good neighbor meeting so that business owners and other stakeholders in and around the shelter can come and express their concerns, and they can be addressed in real time, not that they build up over a period of time until things become explosive, and then all of a sudden, everyone's being, reactive instead of proactive to some of those challenges. Increasing coordination among community partners. So, there's trust that's going to have to be built and relationships strengthened over the course of the next little while as some of the businesses and stakeholders in and around that area, don't necessarily feel that that's been the case over the last little while or quite some time. It's my understanding the city was receiving quite an astronomical number of complaints on a daily basis around shelter activities and the population that was accessing the shelter, or what appeared to be the population accessing the shelter. Our plan is to draft a formal complaint management system. So there will be a formal system. Like I said, people will phone. There will be a response immediately, not, no response or, a late response that's unhelpful to the neighboring population. Supporting the good neighbor policy, as I just described, including the regular engagement with businesses and residents in and of the area. Developing ongoing neighborhood mitigation measures, enhancing education on harm reduction and cultural safety. Part of the other challenge that we encounter is people are struggling with compassion fatigue, right? Everyone's asking for compassion for the population. They're asking for patience with the population. They're talking about harm reduction and the reason for all of these measures. And it's really difficult for people because it also reaches a point where it's like, that's fine, but this is impacting my business or my family or my day-to-day life. And so taking a more literal approach and just talking about the realities of substance use and the impacts they have on community, and also the impacts that those have on the population, how we can actually help address some of those challenges from a business perspective. Improving reporting and accountability with the city, and enhancing site management and implementation of policies and procedures. So we've been working very diligently over the last week alongside Sheena and her team to address gaps in their policies and procedures and practices and where we can improve for the shelter. So for substance use and intoxication, enhancing relationships is important, but the stabilization of populations, so finding meaningful and useful solutions to address the substance use. One, so getting some access for your population to opioid agonist therapy. That is a really big one and will reduce a lot of the challenges that you're experiencing, not all of them, but a lot of them in terms of making sure that people are accessing pharmaceutical grade medication, that it's being, delivered in a controlled environment, and then ultimately reducing the use of illicit narcotics in the community and some of the fallouts from that. In terms of public intoxication, working with them, wrapping supports around those individuals to find them appropriate housing so that they're not intoxicated in public, which I'm sure you also know is a challenge. There's very little housing available in Dawson Creek. So we have flagged this. We are working to try and determine some other housing types, more permanent supportive housing, complex care housing, working alongside Dawson Creek Native Housing to be able to place people in some of their units that may be available as long as the wraparound supports are available to ensure that these individuals can be successful and maintain their housing. Will reduce public intoxication. So all of those pieces, and then working with Northern Health to see what we can do for individuals, like I said, that are living with severe and persistent mental health issues that are being unaddressed, and they're using those substances to self-medicate. Congregation and trespassing in public spaces, so increasing presence policies, the outreach team that I described. It's essentially a downtown outreach team that will just go around and ensure that that congregation isn't happening and that people aren't trespassing or they're responsive to it when they get calls. The other thing that we've identified is the shelter is currently not client-facing from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., which is difficult because that's when businesses are open and operating. So that will also be changing. So the society will be client-facing between those hours additionally, which helps with a lot of things. One, the flood of individuals out into the community doesn't occur if they have somewhere else to go. Two, the urination, defecation that occurs during those hours outside of those businesses because they don't have a washroom to use goes away. So there's lots of positives. They have, somewhere to hang out that isn't in the doorway of a business owner. And so we're hoping that that will mitigate a lot of those issues and concerns. Not all of them. I mean, they're adults and they're free to come and go as they please. But, if given the choice, many of them would choose, especially in the summer when it's really hot and the winter when it's really cold, to stay inside instead of wander around the community. Litter and discarded supplies. So again, this team will go around. They will do regular sweeps in and around the neighborhood, picking up garbage, picking up debris that's been laying around. Additionally, people can call. I know that there's been quite a cost to the city around dumpsters being emptied out and having to be cleaned back up, and other garbage being laid around. So this team will help support with that to alleviate some of those pressures on the city. Noise and disruptive behavior, so that good neighbor policy, the outreach team, the redirection of population, better access to mental health and substance use resources to identify why somebody's being disruptive. Are they having, a break, a mental health break? Is this substance use related? Is it an acquired brain injury related? Do they have supports available in community? The impacts on businesses and community safety, so regular engagement with those businesses, and then being responsive in communication, so having that formal management plan with contacts available to address it. We also acknowledge that, chronic homelessness and mental health and substance use issues are a shared responsibility among a lot of different stakeholders, and that the shelter and Nawican Friendship Center didn't create the homelessness, they didn't create the substance use, they didn't create the mental health issues. They're a service that's there to help support the population. And it does require more than just the shelter to be able to wrap supports around these individuals and move them into better places and spaces and reduce the impact on community. And although you do have a lot of nonprofit organizations in the community, you are significantly lacking in housing. You are significantly lacking in mental health and substance use supports in this community by no fault of your own, right? You are a small community and a lot of those investments end up in larger centers and or centers that make a lot of noise. And so we'll be working alongside the city, hopefully, to make that noise, to create some of those, bring some of that revenue into the community in hopes of creating some of those systems that will reduce those pressures. The Nawican Friendship Center will be seeking an application for a temporary use permit. You may or may not know that, to relocate the shelter from its current location about 300 meters down the road. We believe, after reviewing and looking at the building, talking to the surrounding business owners, the neighbors, looking at the new space versus the old space, checking out the outdoor areas, and just assessing the community and conducting the environmental scan, that the move would benefit the city greatly, especially in terms of addressing a lot of the issues that you're experiencing and the complaints that you're receiving. So the building in and of itself is much larger, much larger. And it does have an improved building design. So there is an ability to bring more people into the shelter, including during the daytime, more ability for common area spaces, food security spaces, right, to provide, and food brings people in and brings people together. So that's important. It will also allow them to have more beds. So I know you have challenges with encampments as well out in the community because the shelter is limited to 17 beds currently because of space issues. So the new space that they're looking at and hoping to move to can accommodate up to 24 beds. And which, obviously just in and of itself brings more people from outside inside. There is additional indoor space, so are places for people to spend time instead of having to go stand outside and wait. They can spend some time inside. Designated outdoor areas, so there is a fenced backyard. And with the inclusion of a privacy fence, instead of standing out front and people can see large congregations of people and or they're going, there's a space and a place for them to go that's fenced and is not visible to the passing community. And although many of the individuals are not scary in nature, that's not always the perception. Often is, especially if you have children with you, or you are a single female walking by. And so having a space like that will just inherently make people feel safer. There is greater privacy for residents in general, like I said, and then better opportunities for integrated services. So with more space, we can bring in more support services to serve the population. And then there becomes a reduced reliance on public spaces, improved guest management issues. So currently, there are no guests allowed at the shelter, and we are propping up that guest management plan so that if you are a shelter guest, that you are at the shelter. If you are not a shelter guest, then you are wherever you are supposed to be, but that is not the shelter. And then better site oversight. So ensuring that, the management and systems and around the shelter are responsive and, know what's going on amongst the community and with the population. So what the scan confirmed is community concerns are real and require attention. So we do know that. There are opportunities to strengthen communication and accountability, which we are working on. And Homme is committed to supporting Nawican to improve policies and procedures and ensure community safety and confidence. So within the next couple of weeks, their policy and procedure manual will be bolstered and will include, all of the policies that we identified that are missing or could be improved and are maybe driving some of the challenges that the community is experiencing. We are taking a look, obviously, at that outreach team being implemented immediately, becoming client-facing from 9 to 5. Oh, that's that telling me that I'm out of time. And that's all. Good timing. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Stacey.
So,
Thank you.
any questions?
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship, and thank you very much. That was a dense 10 minutes. I mean that positively, not dense in a negative sense. Just with clarification, so you've assumed oversight of the facility from BC Housing? Am I correct on that?
Yeah, so they've transferred the operating agreements and the funding responsibilities to the Aboriginal Housing Management Association. So we are now responsible for ensuring compliance with the operating agreement and making sure so we receive all their reporting, both financial and operational, and ensuring, like I said, that they're compliant with their operating agreement, but also that the operations are something that is, suitable, meeting the needs of the population, but also the city and the community.
Okay. And I guess with respect to the working relationship between yourselves and BC Housing, you'd noted earlier a lack of accessible, affordable housing as one of the challenges for, and we've had many conversations with BC Housing over the years, and I think the people we work with, for the most part, are pretty good, well-intentioned people, but they are, as a Crown corporation, sometimes a bit of an opaque organization, and trying to get a sense of what their inventory is in the community and what is currently available for the market, what is either not being utilized because it needs to be repaired and fixed up, and those repairs, and how much of that housing stock is kind of sitting idle because it hasn't gotten around to being fixed. It is always a challenge for us. So do you guys have any access or insight into that as part of your working relationship, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, is it My Home Place? I always get it wrong. They are at full capacity. Yep, so they are full. Dawson Creek Native Housing Society has 47 houses in the community, in addition to a triplex with 6 units in it. And there are a couple of vacant houses that are available potentially. And then Driver House that they operate, and there are 2 vacant units at Driver House currently.
Okay.
Outside of that, your vacancy rates are very low, and there's not a lot of accessible housing available. We are looking at different municipal land options right now. We're looking at the potential for converting some of those available homes that Dawson Creek Native Housing operates into some type of permanent supportive housing or complex care housing. All of these things require money. And so it will require collaboration between us and the city to approach the province and look for and or advocate for funding. I do think you have a very strong case in this community. Other communities your size have significantly more resources than you do.
Yeah.
And we work across the province, like I said, so I see what every community has to offer. And Dawson Creek has some really significant gaps. And so it will require a lot of work, but I do believe we have a strong business case to bring that investment into Dawson Creek, and hopefully quickly.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, I concur. I mean, part of the challenges is our relative remoteness and isolation, even for 12,500 people. Attracting, retaining qualified professionals, and I mean, even the succession planning in smaller organizations is difficult because if one key person leaves, you oftentimes are back to zero, and that's happened multiple times with us, with various organizations, is you get a good working relationship, and then either we have a staff member leave or they have a staff member leave, and if the person who comes on board isn't, if there's no succession plan or they're not onboarded in a way that maintains that connection, we end up back at square one.
Right.
So you feel like you're constantly just treading water. Location 300 meters away that you're going to be putting in a temporary use application for soon. Is that the previous Nawican building? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I figured, but I just wanted to confirm. Okay. I think that's everything from me for now. I'll turn it over to my colleagues. But thank you again for the presentation. I appreciate this can potentially be a tough room coming into it, especially if there's been some frustrations around the facility previously. And I guess thank you guys for the work you do. I know certainly we want to see people get help and be healthy and improve their circumstances. I don't want anyone at Nawican or in your organization to feel like we lose sight of that, but we are sometimes required to make sure that's balanced alongside everybody else's sense of safety and well-being as well. So I appreciate you coming on board and hoping that we can have a fruitful partnership in that respect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Any other questions? Councillor MacDonald?
Thank you, Worship. Through you to staff, a lot of what we're talking about here could use the benefit of our situation table and the creation of it. So are you aware that we have received the funding for the situation table and where we're at with that?
I was informed that you are forming one last week when I had
Okay.
had meetings, but yeah.
Okay. And then through worship to staff, where are we with the situation table?
Through your worship, we are, Councillor MacDonald, we are currently creating the RFI, the request for interest for the situation table. I think we're at the final stages of it. It should be going out very soon.
Okay. And is that something that Aboriginal Housing Management would be interested in working with our different service providers for the situation table?
Certainly. Yes, that would be something that we would be happy to be a part of.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor MacDonald.
I do want to identify, that over the last 6 weeks, the feedback that we've received about the shelter is there has been marked improvement since implementing a lot of these mitigation strategies, and Nawican's worked really hard to work alongside us to implement those pieces. And the feedback we've received is every business owner I spoke to was supportive of the move over the last couple of days, likely because it's further away from them, but regardless, they were supportive, and they have noted that there has been market improvement, like I said, around the shelter. So I do think Nawican's doing a fabulous job.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Earl?
Just not a question, but to reaffirm the comment just made, I have heard from one or two of the people who operate in that area, and they have noted it's turned around very dramatically in the positive. So thank you once again.
Councillor Earl? Any questions? I had a few. I mean, you answered one of mine just on the businesses. I was just curious to how the last week has been since we met last week on businesses. So you've answered that. Was there any other new concerns that came with meeting the businesses in the last week since we met last time?
No, I would say mostly, loitering, use, garbage, use in and around there. So especially around the mini malls. So how those, they're like wind tunnels, how it's built, and there's steps, right, leading into the alley. And so it seems to be those steps or a congregation point for many individuals. I can see it because it's covered, right? So they would be able to hide from the elements, under the rain, et cetera. And then the alleyway being a thoroughfare. However, the alleyway was very clean when we went through it, so that was really good. But historically, I believe it was quite a catchment area for garbage they had identified, but nothing really new. Everything that we had heard so far was, what they had identified they were challenged with. Every once in a while, there's some fear there around the population and just not knowing or understanding I guess why people are doing the things that they're doing. So for example, if somebody's flailing really badly, so they've lost like motor control and they're sort of contorting, right? Like their body contorts and their limbs are flailing. And that's scary to people, not realizing people are aware that it's happening. They are embarrassed that it's happening, but they can't stop it. But it's nothing dangerous. So just, I think some, a lack of awareness, right, around the population in and of itself, and what are some of the things that happen, and why we can't get more people well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On your good neighbor policy, like if there, in other communities, if there is, some concerns or issues, like is there funding for security and stuff like to assist in that? Or does that policy kind of cover all that? Or how does that work when you run into issues?
Yeah, so generally what I find is security is not always effective with the population. Many of them fear police and security, and because security is often uniformed and, they have specific processes. I do find outreach teams are generally more effective in dealing with those issues. However, plainclothes security have worked in some cases and spaces, depending on the relationship that they've built with the population. But generally, we tend to lean more towards outreach and providing education to those individuals to help them serve the population than we would invest in like a formal security.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't have much else. I mean, I guess one thing just before I close, when do you think the permit or the application will be submitted?
So the application will likely be submitted today.
Oh, okay.
And then it sounds like there's a process. So the 14 days that it'll be put out for community, and then it will be reviewed by administration, and then will come before council before the end of the month, is our hope.
Okay. And then last time we talked, Sheena, we talked about that building had some potential structural issues. Like, has that all been addressed? I haven't heard since then, but.
It's being renovated right now.
Oh, is it? Okay. Good. Okay. Well, I don't have anything else. I want to thank you for being here today, but also thank you for last week in meeting with Kevin and myself and Bill. It was just, it was just a really great meeting to hear of all the things and just to be more educated on the process. And for what you're doing to help the vulnerable population in our community. It's just, it was just really nice to hear. And I also want to thank you for the last 6 weeks and, listening to the community and making some changes that have helped them, because that's a big part for us is what we hear, right? So we appreciate everybody in our community, including helping those that are vulnerable, but also those that it's impacted. So, so thank you very much for everything.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Sheena. Thanks, Stacey. All right, next, 3, the 2026 strategic priority chart, 3.1 and 3.2. I don't know if there's any update. Kevin, go ahead.
Just your worship, just quickly, we finished all our kind of preliminary meetings, and we're compiling everything, and we will have kind of that review wrap up coming to council in the not too distant future. So.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Kevin. Any questions from council? No? All right. Next, no late items. 5, new councillor business. New councillor business. Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Worship. Just want to say a huge thank you to Emmett Taylor for joining myself, Councillor Sudnick, and Councillor Apollonio for this weekend's Race Against Hunger hosted by Adam Rollick and Ovintiv at our Dawson Creek Co-op. What a great event it was. Emmett was a true leader for us. We had so much fun. But I really just wanted to highlight young Emmett brought his own allowance money to donate this year. Truly, the work that Adam, Longhorn, Ovintiv Co-op is doing is inspiring that next generation to give back. And it was so amazing to see. So I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Emmett and donating his own allowance money to the cause and our food banks, and just tell him what a great young man he is. Thank you.
Sure is. Thanks, Councillor MacDonald. Any other? Councillor Kemp?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to give an update. I think you all know that I ran a charity run in July. So on July 23rd, in honor of Mona McNally, I ran from Dawson Creek to Fort St. John to raise money for Step Up and Ride. So I just wanted to update and let you know that so far I've raised $4,840, which I'll be meeting Step Up and Ride tomorrow to give to them. And I just wanted to say thank you that everybody that donated, supported, honked, cheered. It was a trek. That day was plus 28. And the day before, Mona's brother reached out to me, and so I had a picture of Mona with me, which really helped kind of get through that really hot heat once I reached Taylor. But I did make it, and thank you everyone for supporting, and I'd run more for Mona for the Step Up and Ride. I also wanted to congratulate Tumbler Ridge on their another successful Emperor's Challenge. Last year they had said that it was the last one, and unfortunately this year it happened again, and it was an amazing event. Shout out to the gentleman. They've done it 26 times, and he's won it 25 of the 26, crossing the finish line first. His name is Chris Swanson, and I do believe they announced on Saturday that he has set a world record for being the gentleman to win the most mountain runs, 25 of the 26 years. And the run will go on, so that it is happening again next year. So shout out Tumbler Ridge. What a great event.
Thanks, Councillor Kemp. Just new Councillor Business? No? All right. Next, 6, adoption of minutes. 6.1, minutes of the public hearing held on July 27th, 2026 for adoption. Councillor Earl, second Councillor MacDonald. I'll call that to vote. All in favor? That's carried. Before I do 6.2, I just wanted to clarify on the minutes, 9.1.1. I'm just going to pull it up here one second. Where are we here? So yeah, we on the one motion we removed the public art policy and brought in the airport branding and website development as well. It was thought that was $41,000. It's actually $56,000. So there was just a bit of a mistake in the numbers. So I guess what I'm bringing forward is if the intent from council was just to switch those two projects out, then we don't need to do anything. Kevin has said that extra bit of funding can come from another project. If the intent of this council was just to switch based on the dollar value, then I just need to know that. And if that's the case, then I'll recall that vote. So it's just more so, am I covering that proper tab? Okay. Yeah, so I can call that motion to reconsider if it was based on the dollar value. So if it's not, then I don't need to hear anything. If you want me to, if anybody wants me to recall it, then just let me know right now. Okay. For 6.2, minutes of regular meeting of council, July 27th, 2026 for adoption. Councillor Earl, Councillor Kemp, call that to vote. All in favor? It's carried. Any business arising? No. All right. 8, correspondence. 8.1, we have a letter from Kyle MacDonald, President, North Central Local Government Association, received on July 27th, 2026 regarding the 2026-27 NCLGA membership fees. Councillor Sudnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move we pay the annual membership dues to NCLGA.
Second, Councillor Kemp. Any discussion? Councillor Earl?
No, I was going to waste everybody's time by making jokes about the new president driving up the price, but I'm not going to because our time isn't free.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Any other discussion? No, I'll call this motion to vote. All in favor? It's carried. I'm just going to take a 5-minute break here. All right, I'd like to call the regular council meeting for Monday, August 10th back to order. Next order of business is 9 reports. 9.1, we have report 26, report number 26-149 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding actual to budget variance report for period ending June 30th, 2026. Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move the report number 26-149 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding actual to budget variance report for period ending June 30th, 2026 be received for information.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Second, Councillor Kemp. Discussion? No. Call this motion to vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next, 9.2, we have report number 26-151 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2027 permissive tax exemption finalizing participants. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah. I'll move recommendation 1, that report number 26-151 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2027 permissive tax exemption finalizing participants be received for discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Second, Councillor Kemp. We'll call that to vote. All in favor? It's carried. Go ahead, Councillor Earl.
Thank you. Obviously, this has been in my almost 8 years on council. The permissive tax exemption is always that issue that has the most difficulty coming away feeling good about the choice you're making, because obviously the organizations that are applying for it do very good work. On the other hand, it is a subsidy from the taxpayers that we then have to go back and find in the budget via an increase or in reduction somewhere else. So adding more and more to that when it's already a significant amount is always difficult. Having said that, I think based on the parameters we set out in years past, the Dawson Creek Society for Community Living facility they're building, I think clears that hurdle. A little bit more ambiguity on the Dawson Creek and District Chamber of Commerce, so I imagine we'll have some more discussion about that, as I think that's a little tougher to justify given the nature of the organization, but something we should figure out.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Other discussion? No? All right. Thanks, Councillor Earl. Go ahead.
Or maybe not. All right, with that in mind, I will move recommendation 2, that the Dawson Creek Society for Community Living be approved for 100% exemption for the 2027 permissive tax exemption cycle.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Second, Councillor MacDonald. Discussion?
Yeah, obviously, they do a tremendous amount of good work in the community across many services, and help some of the most vulnerable people in our community when they are the most vulnerable. So thank you to them for their work. And once again, although it's not ideal to be adding to the general burden of the tax base, if we were to lose this service or have to try and provide it ourselves, I think it would be far more costly. So,
yeah, thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Worship. Councillor Earl summed that up perfectly, I think, and that was just right.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Maybe just for the public's knowledge, Kevin, if for those that are listening, because in the permissive tax exemption, it's tiered, right? Like it's a certain amount of percentage each year. And I guess why would there be in here where council can decide any percentage?
So through your worship, the what's the word I'm looking for, through the policy, there is different amounts that council can approve for a percentage of exemption. And so that's why, is you have the ability, you always have that ability to select something less than 100% and more than zero if you so choose.
And then based on the policy, like this particular application meets all the criteria, but based on the policy, does it meet 100%, or is the percentage always just based on council's direction of that day?
Through your worship, I'd have to look, but I'm pretty sure with the society that they, they met that threshold and would.
Yeah, they scored the high, yeah.
So.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to clarify, so. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm in favor of this one as well. I think, that it's tough adding more to it, but the Dawson Creek Society for Community Living does a phenomenal job at what they do, and then this meets all the requirements of the policy. So, all right, if there's no other discussion, I'll call this motion to vote. All in favor? That's carried. Recommendation 3. Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Worship. For recommendation number 3, I'd like to move option number 2, that the Dawson Creek District Chamber of Commerce be denied exemption for the 2027 permission tax exemption cycle.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Second. Councillor Sudnick. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Worship. Just again, going back to the rubric, the application process that we set up as a council and for the city, the chamber was a complete zero. They didn't meet any of the application needs as of right now, and it would be very difficult for us to say that we are going to go completely 180 to what we set up as the process and the needs we needed to make to encourage and accept another one of these permissive tax exemptions that are a burden for our other taxpayers in this community. So unfortunately, the chamber does great work in this community, but they did not meet the requirements for any exemption.
Thanks, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Earl?
I concur. And just to reaffirm, the chamber does provide value to this community and its members. And as the chief local advocate for business, that is important. But the rubric we set up was specifically geared towards organizations that typically apply for this exemption, which are people who provide social services and recreational cultural organizations, not necessarily the local business lobby, which, while I appreciate the things they do, it's very difficult to justify, given how many meetings we had on landing on a policy that was fair and transparent around how we allocate this subsidy, to completely upend that, because we appreciate the people involved in the chamber and like the work they're doing. It still doesn't automatically mean they fit into this grading scheme. So apologies to them. I'm going to vote to deny as well. But that isn't in any way a commentary on the quality of work they do. It's just that their organization does not fit into the rubric we created to make sure this was fair and transparent.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Any other discussion? I'm not going to repeat the comments, but I'm on the same page, so thank you. All right, I'll call this motion to vote. All in favor? It's carried. Next 10 bylaws, 10.1, we have report number 26-152 from the city planner regarding zoning amendment 26-01 bylaw number 4636 2026 for consideration of third reading. Councillor MacDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to move that report number 26-152 from the City Planner regarding zoning amendment 26-01, bylaw number 4636, 2026 be received. Further, that zoning amendment 26-01, bylaw number 4636, 2026, which provides for a site-specific use to permit a school wood/metal shop within the existing building on the subject property, be given the third reading.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Second, Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion? Call this to vote. All in favor? It's carried. All right, next 11, Mayor's Business, Mayor's Updates. Yeah, just attended the Hockey Canada event last week in Edmonton with Ryan and Kevin. We went there to the Hlinka Gretzky Cup to present the Sport Tourism Award presentation to the Hockey Canada group. So, yeah, it was a great event. It was great to see all the Hockey Canada representation there, and just to meet with those individuals that we've built relationships with over the years, and not just over the 4 years we've been here, but over, how many years, Ryan? Must be 18, 17 years that Hockey Canada and the city and the region have been partnering. So it was nice just to go there and to be able to present that award to them and just thank them for the partnership, and that we look forward to growing and building that into the future. Fall Fair Parade and events, obviously everybody in the community knows how amazing that whole week is for the community. So I won't touch on all of it. I do want to thank all those organizations that make it possible for our community, including the city. But also, the Exhibition Society, Rotary, you could probably list every organization and every business in our community. So, just a real thank you to all of them that, really, go above and beyond, anything that would be expected of them to create a week like they do for our community and for the whole region. It's, just as an amazing event. And it was, every part of it was amazing. Also wanted to just extend a thank you to the city team for their work on the parade float and how much effort they put into it this year. And not that they haven't in previous years, but and to the whole city team that was out there helping us hand out candy. I was only about like a kilometer behind our float, so there was a lot of steps put in by some runners getting candy to us. I was creeping up beside Councillor MacDonald, and he wasn't happy. He passed me. At one point, I looked up, and I was so far behind. I'm like, well, we'll have to stay back here. And then Councillor Apollonio kept sneaking in beside me. I don't know where that came from, but people are calling me. No, just a thank you to everybody that helped with that, and it was a pretty phenomenal parade. I think, just a lot of floats, a lot of positive comments on everybody's floats. A huge shout out to and thank you to the Rotary for the effort they put in for that. But also to the real winner is all those kids, seniors, family members that get to be out there watching. And it's definitely like a highlight for me in this role, being able to do those parades and being able to talk to all the kids individually and the families and faces and you don't know, but then also to you end by the hospital and you get to talk to those residents of our community that are either at the hospital or at Rotary Village. It was amazing. It was a little emotional for myself. Just going through it, I was pretty emotionally drained afterwards, but I was just extremely grateful and that I was able to do it. So thank you. Also attended the Dawson Creek Exhibition Barn grand opening, which is just a phenomenal facility and a partnership. I'd like to, recognize Northern Lights College and their leadership and the students from Northern Lights College for making this happen. Also the Dawson Creek Exhibition Society and Murray and his team there for everything they've done as well for this. The Peace River Regional District as well. They have, we're in the middle of a grant application, but they've contributed it's $50,000 towards the Barnes, I wanted to recognize them as well. And then also the city of Dawson Creek was, a big part to the city's team. So yeah, just thank you. It was a good turnout too. There was, I don't know numbers, but 60 to 80 people. Yeah, it was really well attended. And I didn't speak to it when I was there, but because I thought about it afterwards, but we were there, I think it was 2 years ago when we did the shovel, the groundbreaking of it, and it was a lot colder and we were all wearing toques and it was really cold, but I didn't think to speak to that because I didn't remember it until after when I was walking away. I was like, wait a minute, last time we were here it was a lot colder. But just nice to be part of and see a project like that from start to finish. And although, we didn't contribute a lot to it, like it was them that kind of spearheaded the whole thing. It was just nice to be part of it and contribute where we could to see it to the end. We had the prospective candidate information session, which was really good. I wanted to thank the regional district and the city of Dawson Creek for coming together to partner in this. It was just great to have Tab, our corporate officer, and also Tyra, the regional district's corporate officer, and plus their teams from both respected organizations just be there to help. And there was a lot of work that went into it. So just a thank you to you. And also, I think we had around 20 potential candidates. So I just wanted to thank them as well. It's not an easy thing to put your name forward sometimes, or to even consider it. So I just wanted to thank those 20 plus that came out and showed interest in it and asked some questions. Also like to thank Councillor Parslow and Director Rose for attending there as well, and just speaking on their experiences and answering some questions. So yeah, it was good. So just thank you to everybody. And then I'm not going to touch on the Aboriginal Housing Management Association as they were here this morning, but they did come last week and they met with Kevin, myself, and Bill. So we had a great dialogue, which was learned pretty much everything that we discussed with them was discussed this morning as part of their delegation. So any questions? No? All right. Thank you. Next, 12, Chief Administrative Officer, Operational Update. So over to you, Kevin.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Your Worship. A couple quick updates. One is I have on the agenda the Masqua Medical Center. We have that on our follow-up list to try and connect Masqua with Chamber of Commerce. And so we've tried a number of times, and just for a number of reasons, either party been unable to connect, been unable to make it work. I guess what I'm saying is we'd like to move on and allow them. If they want to meet, they can meet, but I guess unless council wants us to continue to try, how long would you like us to try and facilitate a meeting? It hasn't worked to date.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Kevin. I've seen behind the scenes of the whole process, and I met with Masqua, actually sitting here as a regional district director, and they presented, and just we felt like there's some good value to bring that education to the community. So we attempted to connect, and for whatever reason it didn't work out. But yeah, we can only do so much. So I think for now it's probably the right thing.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And then the second item was just a quick update. We have finalized the purchase of the land that is right, I guess, on the north side of the Mile Zero Trailer Park for a future park space and playground.
Okay.
So that's finalized. So the next budget coming forth will probably see a budget proposed to get some work done there and a playground installed. So
Excellent.
Yeah, be a great addition for that
Thanks,
area. That whole area in the Finn subdivision area doesn't have access to a playground.
Yeah. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
Any questions? No? All right. 13 diary, 13.1 review of diary items. I don't think we need to review that right now. 14 consent calendar. Anybody want to lift anything from the consent calendar? No. Get a motion to accept. Councillor MacDonald, second Councillor Kempf. Call that to vote. All in favor? It's carried. 15, there's no media here. For meeting question 16, recess to close meeting. 16.1, resolution to move into meeting of council closed to the public. Agenda item 4.1, section 91J, information that is prohibited or information that if were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Agenda item 5.1, section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. In section 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service at other preliminary stage, and that in the view of council could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality if they were held in public. Motion, Councillor MacDonald, Councillor Apollonia. Just before I call that, just for anybody that's watching, we are going to go into closed. We'll probably be back in for committee of the whole around 12:30 if anybody's wanting to watch that. But any comments on closed? No, I'll call that to vote. All in favor? It's carried. Minutes 2.1 minutes of the committee of the whole meeting for March 30th, 2026 for adoption. Councillor Kemp, second Councillor Apollonio. Call that to vote. All in favor? It's carried. Any business arising? It's hard to believe the last one was March 30th. That's committee of the whole. Next reports, 4.1, we have report number 26-144 from the General Manager of Major Infrastructure and Development regarding the water supply system project phase 1 feasibility study findings. Well, hi there, delegation. Good afternoon, Devin.
And I'll turn my mic on. There we go. That's better. We're good. All right. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Thanks, Tab. Thanks, staff. Good morning, Mayor and Council. Today, I will be presenting the findings of the Phase 1 feasibility study completed as part of the Dawson Creek Water Supply System project. This presentation summarizes the work completed over the past year, the key findings that emerged through the study, the options that remain under consideration, and how this work helps position Council for future discussions and decisions regarding long-term water security. The purpose of today's discussion is not to identify a preferred water source or seek a decision from Council. Rather, the purpose is to review what was learned through the feasibility study and how that information reduces uncertainty regarding future water supply planning. So Council last received an update on this project in June. At that time, the majority of technical work had been completed and staff are preparing to begin the evaluation process. Since then, the feasibility study has been completed, the staff evaluation process has been completed, and a significant amount of information has been consolidated and reviewed. While the project examined future source water alternatives, the challenge driving this work remains relatively simple. The city continues to rely on a single water source while facing increasing drought pressures, climate change impacts, and the need to ensure future growth can be supported. The purpose of Phase 1, again, was not to determine which options should be built. The purpose was to better understand the opportunities, the risks, costs, and trade-offs associated with each future option. Throughout today's presentation, I will focus on 5 key questions. First, why this work was undertaken and where we currently stand. Second, what work was completed to answer key questions, reduce uncertainty, and support future decision-making. Third, the most important findings that emerged from the technical studies. Fourth, which options continue to warrant consideration. And finally, what future activities and discussions may occur following completion of Phase 1. These 5 questions also mirror the way the feasibility itself was structured. Before discussing the findings, it's important to recognize that this project represents only one step in a much longer water security journey. The city has made significant investments over many years to improve water efficiency and resilience. These investments include reservoir infrastructure, conservation programs, reclaimed water use, watershed stewardship initiatives, universal metering, and drought response planning. Those investments have produced meaningful results. One of the key questions raised during council discussions and water security workshops was whether those existing measures would continue to be sufficient as future conditions change. The feasibility study was designed to help answer that question and provide additional information before future decisions become necessary. Early in the project, council established guiding principles, and staff worked with the consultant team to identify 4 foundational questions. Everything completed through the feasibility study was designed to answer one or more of these questions. Demand forecasting answered how much water may be required. Source investigations answered where water could come from. Routing and hydraulic analysis helped determine how water could get to Dawson Creek. Cost estimating, engagement, regulatory review, and evaluation activities helped begin answering questions about affordability, implementation, governance, and long-term feasibility. These 4 questions ultimately became the foundation of the entire project. One of the challenges with a project like this is that the final feasibility study represents only a small portion of the work completed. Behind the final report are more than 20 technical studies, reports, memoranda, appendices, and supporting documents. These studies examined everything from climate change and groundwater feasibility to water quality, road development, hydraulic modeling, costs, regulatory requirements, and future water demand. Individually, each study answers a specific question. Collectively, they form the evidence base that supports the findings being presented today. One of the themes that emerged repeatedly through this process is that good planning requires good information. The purpose of Phase 1 was to improve the quality of information available to Council before future decisions are considered. One of the first questions the feasibility study needed to answer was how much water Dawson Creek may require in the future. Using a medium growth planning scenario that we talked about before, the study projects average daily demand increasing from approximately 6,000 cubes per day today to approximately 10,400 cubic meters per day by 2075. Maximum day demand, which is critical when designing infrastructure, is projected to reach approximately 18,300 cubic meters per day. These projections incorporate population growth, economic development opportunities, and future servicing requirements. While growth cannot be predicted with certainty, the analysis confirms that future planning should assume that water demand will continue to increase over time. Climate change emerged as one of the most important findings of the study. In general, the study found that average temperatures across northeastern BC are projected to increase by approximately 3 to 5 degrees by the 2080s. The study also found that summer low flows are expected to decline across all potential river sources. One of the key reasons for this change is that while the total amount of precipitation our region receives may not change dramatically, when and how that water arrives is expected to change significantly. More precipitation is expected to fall as rain rather than snow, reducing snowpack and causing more water to run off earlier in the spring. This is expected to contribute to lower river flows during the warmer summer months when water demand is typically at its highest. These findings reinforce the importance of evaluating future water supply options, not only based on availability, but also on long-term climate resilience. With future demand, climate impacts, and source investigations completed, staff are then able to evaluate the remaining alternatives using a structured assessment process. Once the technical work was completed, a selection of senior-level staff evaluated the remaining options using a structured 3-step evaluation process. The first step was a review against Council's guiding principles. This was intended to identify whether an option generally aligned with the city's long-term direction and whether there were any major concerns that would prevent it from moving forward. Options were assessed as either advance, advance with caution, or do not advance. The second step was a modified PESTLE evaluation. This provided a more detailed assessment of each option across a range of economic, technical, legal, regulatory, and environmental considerations using a structured scoring framework. The intent was to better understand where each option demonstrated strengths, where uncertainties existed, and where additional work may be required in future phases. The third step was a final holistic review. Evaluators stepped back from individual scores and considered each option as a complete water supply solution. This allowed professional judgment, local knowledge, experience, and practical considerations to be reflected in the overall assessment. Following individual evaluations, staff collectively reviewed the results, clarified assumptions, discussed areas of difference, and agreed on final scoring based on the established methodology. Cost was intentionally evaluated separately because Council ultimately needs to understand both how an option performs and what it may cost. The goal is not to identify a winner, but rather to create a consistent and transparent framework for understanding which options demonstrated the greatest potential to move forward for future consideration. Before discussing potential new sources, it's worth recognizing that maintaining the current system still remains a valid option. The Kiskatna River has supplied Dawson Creek for many decades, and significant investments have already been made in the existing system. However, maintaining the current approach would likely require continued conservation efforts, ongoing drought planning, periodic emergency response actions, and continued reliance on a single source water supply. The Kiskatna option should not be viewed as a do-nothing option. It remains an active option that would still require planning, investment, conservation efforts, and drought response measures. The purpose of the feasibility study was not to assume that a new source is required, but rather to understand how maintaining the current path compares to other alternatives. Before reviewing the remaining options, I'd like to briefly discuss the cost estimates presented throughout the remainder of the presentation. These are Class D planning level estimates developed for feasibility purposes. They include contingency, engineering, and inflation allowances, which all represent a substantial portion of the reported costs and help account for uncertainty at this stage of planning. As feasibility level estimates, they also carry the accuracy range generally associated with the stage of project development. Future costs could reasonably change as additional engineering, field investigations, and project definition work are completed. While significant work was undertaken to develop these estimates, future field investigations, engineering work, regulatory requirements, market conditions, and other factors could influence project costs over time. With that context in mind, the Kiskatna option effectively represents maintaining the current path while continuing to invest in conservation, drought planning, and system improvements. Its primary advantage is that most infrastructure already exists, but its primary challenge is uncertainty. Uncertainty about future climate conditions, future growth, and continued reliance on a single source creates risks that are difficult to fully predict over the long term. Interesting. Sorry. There it is. Peace River Clayhurst. The Clayhurst option performed well across multiple categories. The source benefits from the size of the Peace River watershed and regulated river flows associated with upstream hydroelectric infrastructure. Its route avoids a crossing of the Kiskatna River and generally follows established transportation corridors and rights-of-ways. These factors contributed positively to its construction feasibility assessment. Its primary challenges relate to the overall project scale, transmission distance, and associated cost. Peace River Taylor. The Taylor option uses the same sources as the Clayhurst option. The key differences in this option relate to route selection, construction considerations, pumping requirements, and cost. Because this option originates closer to communities such as Taylor and Fort St. John, it may also create future opportunities that could be explored outside the scope of this feasibility study. The additional pumping requirements, river crossing, and route complexity were the primary factors contributing to its higher overall cost. The Pine River emerged as a viable alternative and represents the lowest cost new source evaluated. It also has a shorter transmission distance and reduced pumping requirements compared to the Peace River options. In some respects, the Pine River is more comparable to the city's existing watershed conditions than the Peace River alternatives. However, unlike the Peace River options, it demonstrates lower overall climate resilience and great seasonal variability. So this highlights one of the key findings of the study. Each alternative offers a different balance of cost, reliability, climate resilience, and long-term certainty. Evaluating options requires considering those factors together rather than focusing on the cost of just one. So this slide here brings staff's recommendations of the remaining alternatives together. As I mentioned before, one of the clearest findings of the study is that no single alternative performs best across every category. Each option offers a different balance of cost, reliability, climate resilience, risk, and long-term certainty. I wanted to touch on here operational annual costs were provided in the previous slide are anticipated to be in the order of $1.8 million to $2.5 million per year. That's something that would include wages, capital cost replacements, as well as energy costs for pumping. The purpose of Phase 1 was not to identify a preferred option. The purpose was to reduce uncertainty, understand those trade-offs, and provide council with information needed to support future decision-making. So what was screened out? One of the expected outcomes of a feasibility study is narrowing the number of options requiring future investment and study. The 3 options shown here are not considered failed options. Rather, they were assessed against the same evaluation framework, and they didn't compare as favorably against the alternatives staff are recommending to be carried forward. In fact, several of these options helped answer important questions and reduce uncertainty, even if they're not currently being recommended for further focus. Groundwater is a good example. Throughout the study, groundwater remained one of the most frequently discussed alternatives. The assessment reviewed more than 700 registered wells and 21 mapped aquifers. While groundwater may still have value as a supplemental or emergency source, the funding suggests it's unlikely to serve as a viable primary municipal water source for Dawson Creek. Similarly, both Murray River alternatives were found to be technically feasible, but they presented challenges related to climate resilience, constructability, cost, treatment requirements, or comparative performance. It's important to remember that if new information becomes available in the future, any of these options could be revisited, reevaluated, and picked back up again for further focus. The evaluation process provides another way of comparing the remaining alternatives and understanding how they performed across multiple criteria. As discussed earlier, the evaluation process combined Council's guiding principles, the modified PESLI assessment, professional judgment, and cost considerations. This graphic combines the evaluation results with life cycle cost information. In general, options that are positioned higher on the graph performed more favorably within the evaluation framework, while options positioned further to the right have higher estimated life cycle costs. One interesting observation is that the alternatives tend to cluster together. The Pine River demonstrates the lowest life cycle cost among the new source options, while still performing relatively well within the evaluation process. The Peace River alternatives generally scored slightly higher, but at a higher life cycle cost. The Cascadena option appears distinctly separate from the other options. It benefits from the lowest life cycle cost, but also reflects the uncertainty associated with continued reliance on the existing source. The score of 0 does not indicate that it's a failed option. Rather, it reflects the existing system that it did not advance beyond step 1 of the evaluation process when we assessed it against Council's guiding principles, and therefore it was not evaluated within the modified PESLI framework, and we gave it a score of 0. Ultimately, the chart here reinforces one of the central conclusions of the study. There is no single option that clearly outperforms all others. Each alternative presents a different balance of cost, reliability, climate resilience, risk, and long-term certainty. So one of the more important findings from Phase 1 is that many of the remaining questions are no longer purely technical. Phase 1 demonstrated that several options may be technically feasible. The next challenge becomes understanding affordability, funding opportunities, governance considerations, implementation requirements, and long-term sustainability. Future discussions will increasingly focus on how a potential project could be funded, implemented, governed, and supported over the long term. With operating costs in the order of what I previously mentioned, partnerships and funding options will be key pieces here. These considerations ultimately may become just as important as the engineering itself. Should Council choose to continue advancing the project, future work would likely focus on reducing remaining uncertainty, improving decision readiness, and further evaluating implementation considerations. It's important to note that no future phase work program has been developed or approved. Any future work would ultimately depend on Council direction, funding availability, evaluation outcomes, and future recommendations. Unlike Phase 1, which examined many alternatives and technical questions, future work would become much more targeted. The goal would be to continue generating useful information without unnecessarily completing detailed work on options that may never proceed. Future work may also focus on funding readiness, potential implementation strategies, and preparing information that support future recommendations to Council. So, at the beginning of this presentation, I noted that the goal of Phase 1 was to reduce uncertainty regarding Dawson Creek's long-term water supply needs. I believe that that objective has been achieved. The future work completed through Phase 1 has provided a significantly better understanding of future demand, climate impacts, alternative source options, costs, opportunities, risks, and implementation consideration than was available even 1 year ago. Several options remain technically feasible. However, each presents a different balance of cost, reliability, climate resilience, risk, and long-term certainty. As a result, the city is now in a much stronger position to consider future discussions regarding our long-term water security and our options that are available to support it. Staff will continue reviewing the completed studies, evaluation findings, and council feedback from today before bringing forward a follow-up report containing recommendations and potential next steps for council's consideration. All right, thank you. I would be happy to answer any questions you have, providing any additional context on the project or clarify technical findings if you'd like.
Thank you, Devin. Thanks for the report and, yeah, all the information. There's a lot there, and I know you've put a lot of work into this and your team, so thank you. Open up to council. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Devin, and everyone on your team who put this together. I'm sure the sticker shock of some of the options in there will get a lot of headlines and result in a lot of conversation. I guess my advice to people out there in the public who may be watching this is to read the document. It is available. There's going to be a lot of people who armchair quarterback the city's approach to dealing with this and insist that they knew better back when, or if this had happened, then things would be different. I'd say that this document is probably, and this initiative takes this issue farther down the field than any council has before, and this document probably represents the most comprehensive cost-benefit analysis of our various options up to this point. And anyone claiming, based on conversations with their pals, that they knew better back when is probably not being honest with themselves. So thank you for that. Thank you for this. I've got a lot of thoughts on where we go next. I guess my first question is, as we whether or not future councils continue with this work, is this something where this document would be forwarded to the various stakeholders we're engaging with so they're up to speed on where we are, or is it something that we proactively send out, or is it something we present as they ask, or is it just for the benefit of council as far as the feasibility study goes?
Thank you, Councillor Earl, through your worship. I have already sent what you have in your package on the public agenda to many of our First Nations partners that have worked with us already, as well as the Environmental Assessment Office and a few other ministry partners, Ministry of Waterlands and Resource Stewardship as well. So I've shared the executive summary in this report. As far as the feasibility, the larger technical feasibility study goes, that's largely an internal document that I've shared with a few departments already that could use it, like our Water and Environmental Department. Watershed was eager to dig their teeth into the data.
All right. And I guess, have we received any feedback from our counterparts yet with respect to aiding future council in further winnowing down what options they may want to explore?
Up to date, we've had some broader conversations, building relationship. I think they've all been positive. Nobody questions that the city needs water, and that we're in a tough spot. Up until now, we haven't been able to have a real strong conversation around any content or anything because we didn't have anything.
Yeah, how much we need, where we get it from, and how much it's going to cost, and what opportunities there are for partnerships.
And now we have that. So now we can have some real fruitful conversations, I think, with those that are interested in stepping in and working with us and collaborating and co-creating on a solution. So I'm looking forward to, if council chooses, what phase 2 would bring.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess touching back on the Class D. So just for context, I guess from my understanding is Class D is definitely a kind of 10,000 feet in the air, all considerations, all contingencies, as a precaution, as I don't know to say inflated, but we're definitely erring on the side of cautions with respect to what the outside costs could be.
Yes.
So that as you drill down into a specific project, you can hopefully that number comes down. Maybe not. Maybe due to some unforeseen thing, it goes up. But like I said, I think there's some people who potentially are going to be put on their back heels by the sticker shock and how we communicate. I mean, if that's the number, that's the number, and I think we need to have an honest conversation as a community and a region about this. But most people may not understand the context of a Class D.
Yes, to speak to the Class D, it is a large contingency involved in that, as well as other things included. We've taken worst case scenarios for each of the options. The intention is that the number gets whittled down, not up. So we start with that, and we move towards the number, much like we've done with our other projects, like the sewer trunk main design, for example, where we work with a partner to bring that number down. I would say that at this stage, preliminary, high-level planning, that's what a Cost D estimate is for. And I'm fairly confident in those. I'm very confident in those numbers. The question is going to be, would you rather, I guess, go for partnerships with a high number and work it down than come for a number that's maybe a little more
Modest
and have to come back for more, yes. Right? So we are being reasonable we're not overinflating at all, but there's some worst case scenario things where if we don't have the unknowns, we are estimating for it.
Okay.
Future phases will provide more constants and start to understand more about each one of the options.
And just once again, for the public's benefit, the cost estimates provided in the study are the life cycle costs that include, I guess, capital construction, possible debt financing, and then ongoing capital maintenance, not necessarily the operations.
So the capital cost component of the project is the actual construction in $2031, because that would be estimated when around the time we
earliest.
Would. And the life cycle costs include everything to manage and maintain that infrastructure for the life cycle of the pipeline. So that would be your wages, your capital replacement costs, your repairs, your inspections, all of those.
Operation.
Your electrical, exactly, your operational costs, all of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor MacDonald?
Thank you, Worship. Just to confirm on the cost estimates there as well, that does include any adjustments we would have to make to our treatment facilities to adjust for the different quality of water as well?
Yes. So your life cycle costs, if there was a difference between the options, it would be included. For example, the Cascada option, I think it had an $85 million life cycle cost. That includes upgrades to the current system that were also included in all of the other options.
Okay. And is that why the Murray fell out of favor, because of the water quality and adjustments that would have to be made on the treatment?
There's a number of reasons why the Murray fell out of favor. There was a substantial amount of infrastructure that had to be built as well to access certain parts of the Murray alignment, just because it was a little more remote than the other options that are more adjacent to established highways. But the water quality is one aspect of it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor MacDonald. Any other questions?
So as discussed in the report, August 24th, I plan to come back. This was just for discussion to get a feeling on where council's sitting, and then I plan to bring some recommendations to you on the 24th to take a look at and make some decisions and give staff some direction.
So besides just information right now, Devin, are you looking for more from us, or is this just kind of...
Just getting a feel for how comfortable you are. I'm assuming if there's not a lot of questions, that means you're comfortable with what I've provided, and I'll come back with the next round of questions for you.
And then have some different recommendations.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a lot to digest. I may come up with subsequent questions as I do that, and as I hear from people out in the public who have questions I may or may not be able to answer. I guess the other piece of this is public engagement. What is the next planned communication with the public around where we stand? I mean, above and beyond this, are we renting space and inviting people in? Are we doing any kind of stakeholder? Once again, I realize it's still preliminary because we have to allocate more resources to enable that, but I presume the next report from you would include that piece of it so we can bring the public along for the ride.
The next report would include what the scope of work would be for phase 2, or what we're looking at right now is a phase 2A.
Yeah.
And public engagement, that would be something that we can elaborate on for you. I don't have an understanding right now what that's going to be. we have some options. I guess really today's discussion was going to help us refine that, and then we'll be bringing it back to you in pretty short order. I think my deadline is 4 days to spin it around to the next council meeting, and I'll be doing that. So if that's something that interests you, we'll make sure we speak to it.
Well, I mean, obviously, don't put the cart before the horse, and you know,
Public
put
engagement is
yourself.
very important.
It is, this, especially when you're talking about figures like this and something that is going to have a significant impact on the community and its prospects for the next 75 years or longer. And just for the sake of making sure that as few people as possible can show up at the 11th hour and say, well, I didn't hear about that. Because I don't think that helps anything either.
I can assure you that phase 2 public engagement is a big piece of it. Engagement in general is going to be a big piece of it, but we'll make sure to speak to specifically to public engagement so that you understand what that would look like. Okay. And who in the provincial government, I mean, obviously the environmental assessment people, but, I this is probably way too preliminary, and I'm likely not going to be here to have that conversation. But with respect to the Clayhurst option, given recent communications from the provincial government and BC Hydro about a potential Site E and the time horizon around that, I think it would be prudent of us to, if that is the way that this is going, begin having those conversations early, as there's likely some significant cost savings there if we can align with that corridor and that construction cycle. Yeah, absolutely. Site E was just recently announced, which is why I didn't put it into my report, because it's so preliminary at this point. But
yeah.
I think you're drawing the lines there that it would be worth having some conversations with BC Hydro.
Yeah, because I think that cost projection could change dramatically depending on what's available. And,
absolutely.
And, the province's ability to contribute and get us to the point where we're ready to go. Anyway, I'll turn the floor over to anybody else who has questions. Thank you again.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Devin. You're good. Do you need anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, just motion to adjourn. Councillor Earl, second Councillor MacDonald. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, everyone.